What's up, guys? This is MF GOON, the Arsenal supervillain. Today we're going to be reviewing Arsenal 2, West Ham nil. Before we get into that, please like and subscribe. Help me grow this channel. Let's get into the match review. So, yeah, another match week in the books, another routine win for Arsenal. I think it caps off a great week for the Gunners. 3 games played, 3 wins, 1 goal conceded last week at Newcastle. Um, I think before kickoff, the Emirates was buzzing yesterday. We got to see Eze and Martin Odegaard in the starting 11 together. I think I'd like to see this going forward a lot more. 1-6, one holding midfielder at home to teams that we know are going to set up against us with a low block. Having our 2 creative midfielders together I think, is the way to go. We've seen Arsenal time and time again struggle against these low blocks, struggle against teams who just want to sit back. They don't want to offer anything going forward and limit our spaces in the final third. So it was really positive to see Mikel Arteta go with this. He didn't just go with his tried and tested, Zubimendi, Rice plus 1 creative player or 1 creative midfielder, should I say, and then perhaps sticking Eze out on the left. He went with both of them, 2 creators in midfield, which I think is really positive to see that the manager is willing to do this, and hopefully we'll see more of it going forward. I mean, it might be some time, but we'll get into that until we see something like that again. So, but yeah, I think a really positive selection, positive lineup from the manager. A lot of talk about that in the last few weeks. I think really, if we're being honest, stemming from that Man City game, I think that was overblown. But we've seen how we played against Newcastle. Really positive, really attacking. Obviously, he rang a lot of changes midweek in the Champions League, but then today again, a team who we knew was just going to sit back against us. He really went for it with the lineup, in my opinion. So yeah, that was brilliant and great to see. So I think as the game started, it was pretty much as we expected, just typical Nuno. He just wanted his team to sit back, sit in that mid to low block, make things really difficult for Arsenal, cut off our spaces. I think it's also clear to see West Ham taking a bit of a page out of Newcastle's book, being very, very physical. Um, you know, I think particularly on Gyökeres, they were really like roughing him up. Not really anything crossing the line, but just taking a very physical approach and just giving us no space, really. We probably should have been 1-0 up. Everett as a great player, as we know, but I don't know how we missed that chance. Literally just a rebound, and all he had to do was slot it into the goal. I think there were a couple of West Ham defenders trying to get back onto the line, and maybe he had that in his mind and he wanted to lift the ball, but he ended up putting it over the bar. As I said, I was at the Emirates yesterday and we couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe that ball didn't go in. So, yeah, I mean, Arsenal should have been 1-0 up, but it wasn't to be, and the game carries on. Carried on much in the same way, to be completely honest. We weren't really making a lot of chances, didn't have a lot of shots, and West Ham were making our life difficult. But eventually the goal did come. Declan Rice, who was getting pelters from the West Ham fans all game, I have to say. Firstly, just a quick word on West Ham fans. Those guys are absolutely delusional. Like, look where they are in the Premier League right now, and they want to boo Declan Rice every time he touches the ball. This guy was your captain. He won you a trophy, a European trophy at that. He got you over £100 million. Like, Arsenal and West Ham isn't a rivalry. It's not like he went to Spurs or he went to Chelsea. He's treated you guys with nothing but respect. Doesn't celebrate when he scores against you, and that's how you behave. And you look at where they are now. I think in the relegation places, do they really expect a player like Declan Rice, as good as he is, to be sitting there just rotting away with them? So yeah, shout out to the Hammers. You guys are absolutely delusional. But I think that will come as no surprise to anybody. But yeah, as I said, Declan Rice, he was the one to break the deadlock. Martin Zubimendi plays a great great pass, should I say, out wide. And a shot comes in, it rebounds out, and Declan Rice here, unlike Eze, just absolutely tucks it away, 1-0. I have to say, I loved his celebration as well. He'd been getting pelters all day. As soon as he scored, he just turned and gave the West Ham fans the eyes, and they just sat there crying like they were for the majority of the game, to be completely honest. So that put Arsenal 1-0 up and gave us the lead that we needed. I think there was a bit of a sense in the Emirates as well that, now that they're behind, maybe West Ham will come out and try and actually play a bit of football. It wasn't really to be. To be completely honest, there were some times in the game where our defenders were just keeping the ball, passing it side to side, holding onto the ball, you could just tell they were begging for West Ham to come and, like draw out and actually press us so we could play through them and get some more spaces. But they were having none of it. They just were happy to sit in their shape and really offered nothing. I think in this game they created something like 0.49 XG or something. They really didn't do much. As I said, the first half, there wasn't too much going on. The only other moment of note, Calafiori got the ball at the edge of the box, took a great shot, it cannoned off the post, hit the goalkeeper in what looked like the back of the shoulder, and somehow didn't roll back into the goal. He's so unlucky. I thought he had a really good half, Calafiori. Just was going everywhere that he wanted to. Seemed like he had a free roll, like almost like how Mesut Ozil used to play for Arsenal. And yeah, super unlucky. Anytime you see the ball hit the post, ricochet, and hit the keeper in the back of the head or the back of the shoulder, those usually just roll back into the goal. But yeah, on this occasion, the ball just went completely dead and West Ham were able to clear. That was the only real other moment of note in the first half. But yeah, we went in 1-0 at the break, very much deserved, even if we hadn't created too much. So as I said, West Ham were offering nothing. Then we move on to the second half. That was more of the same. We completely limited West Ham. They had absolutely nothing, not a sniff. Gabriel, Saliba, Timber in particular, I thought was really good. He's just been on a different level this season. It's just like 8 or 9 out of 10 every game defensively. He's been so good, and there was obviously more to come from him. When it comes to the second goal, Timber had picked up a really good space, like this kind of like inside pocket on the right hand side, received the ball, kind of like drove into the box. I think the foul started just outside the box, but he was eventually brought down and the referee rightly pointed to the spot. There was a bit of discussion in the stands as to who might take this. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about Victor Gyökeres at the moment. In the last 2 games, in my opinion, he's actually played really well without having the ball in the back of the net. So there was some expectation that he might be the one to take it, and just end his mini goal drought, get some of the critics off his back. But it was quite clear we saw Bukayo Saka pick the ball up and walk to the spot. There was some discussion earlier in the season. I think it was from James McNicholas. He was reporting that, internally he'd heard some rumours that Victor Gyökeres was going to be the penalty taker this season. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. But I also heard, and we don't know whether this is true or not, that the reason Saka took the penalty yesterday was because it would have brought up 100 goal contributions for him for Arsenal. And yeah, so 200 Premier League games, 100 goals and assists combined. That's a brilliant return. You got to remember as well, he broke into this team at such a young age. So to have such a good record of goal contributions in just 200 appearances is absolutely fantastic. And then, I think also, if we're being completely honest, in those first couple of seasons, he wasn't exactly playing for the best Arsenal team either. So yeah, to rack up those numbers is super impressive. Wasn't really too much for the rest of the game, for being completely honest. It was routine. Arsenal didn't really feel the need to stretch themselves. I think obviously, as I said, it's worth pointing out some of the other talking points. Of course, Martin Odegaard's injury in the first half seemed like a clash of knees. He went down for a bit, not the shoulder this time, tried to shake it off, came back on the pitch, and then essentially went down again and asked to be replaced. Martin Zubimendi came on. I thought he was absolutely brilliant, gave us some control in the midfield, just really dictated the tempo, played some great passes, and I think that was the right substitution. I think at the time there was some talk as to whether it might be Ethan Nwaneri, who had seen come on in some other home games, I think particularly Leeds and Nottingham Forest, and played really well. But I think on this occasion, Martin Zubimendi coming on was definitely the right call from Arteta. Some other changes I think were made at some point during the second half. I think we saw Marino, Miles Lewis-Skelly, Nwaneri did eventually come on, and Martinelli. They didn't really do too much. I think solid, if unspectacular, is probably the best way to sum up their cameos. But as I said, this was a game Arsenal, once it got to 2-0, they were just in cruise control. West Ham didn't have a sniff. I cannot remember David Raya having to make a save. So 2-0 sent the Gunners to the top of the Premier League. At that time, we thought maybe just for a few hours, but we'll get to the other game of the day in just a moment. I think there's a few other things to talk about from an Arsenal perspective first before we move on to other teams. So, of course, look, the main talking point, Martin Odegaard injured again. News seemingly coming out today that it is an MCL injury. We don't know the severity. It seems like there's 3 I guess, different types or 3 different severity levels for this injury. Grade 1, grade 2, and grade 3. Grade 1 can be, a few days to a week. Grade 2 can be 2 to 4 weeks, and grade 3 can be 4 to 8 weeks, if not more. I think there were some pictures of Martin Odegaard leaving the ground in a knee brace yesterday. So it's, unfortunately seemingly unlikely that this is going to be a grade 1 tear. It's probably at minimum a grade 2. I think Arsenal would really love it if it wasn't a grade 3. 4 to 8 weeks plus. I mean, that's another 2 months if it is that. We've got some huge fixtures coming up. The fixtures are going to start piling up, as we know. We're already missing Kai Havertz. We're already missing Noni Madueke. It would just be another attacking option that Arsenal are without. I know we've got Everett Eze and we've got Ethan Nwaneri, but the latter seemingly only trusted in certain situations at the moment, given his age, and I think that's fair enough from the manager. But let's wait and see. As I said, seemingly it's come out that it is an MCL, but we don't know how severe it is. I think as Arsenal fans, we've just got to keep our fingers crossed that it's not a grade 3. 4 to 8 weeks, it's not the end of the world. It's not like an ACL, but we need all of our players fit and firing. We've got Atletico Madrid, Bayern, Spurs, Chelsea, some really difficult games coming up. And to be without Martin Odegaard, especially how he's played this week, changed the game at Newcastle, was amazing in the Champions League. It'd be a real miss. And then he's really unlucky as well. Set an unfortunate record of being the first player in Premier League history to start a game and be subbed off in the first half 3 times. I mean, not a record he would want, and certainly not a record you'd associate with a player of his quality, but there we are. The injury curse, unfortunately, didn't stop there. Declan Rice in the second half also went down, seemingly with a back injury, and also asked to come off. That was on around 70 minutes. Again, we don't know too much. Arteta didn't seem to say anything, that would raise eyebrows there. I guess as an Arsenal fan, when we hear back injury, we just think back to a few years ago where William Saliba had a back injury in March and it kind of ended his season and essentially derailed our title charge. Again, fingers crossed from an Arsenal perspective that we're not dealing with anything that severe. I think it's fair to say that hopefully Declan Rice will sit out the international break. There's no need for him to play these games with England. Martin Odegaard absolutely will not be going on international duty now with Norway. But that was a more severe injury, as we know. So, on to other Premier League matters. The 5:30 kickoff was Chelsea against Liverpool. I have to say, Liverpool going into this game in a bit of a mini crisis. They'd lost two in a row, but I'll be completely honest, without Cole Palmer, without Liam Delap, and given Chelsea's own recent form, I wasn't really holding out too much hope that Chelsea would get a result. But, what do I know? Chelsea doing Arsenal a massive favour. They went 1-0 up through an absolute rocket from Caicedo. They obviously got pinned back, but snatching a late winner for Esteval. I mean, a couple of weeks in a row now, Liverpool being forced to drink their own medicine. Absolutely brilliant. If you think back to last weekend, there was a lot of talk saying, well, Arsenal could end the weekend 8 points behind Newcastle. Obviously we know that's not what happened. Arsenal won, Liverpool lost, and we cut the gap to 2 points. And this time, Liverpool lose again, Arsenal win, go into the international break, top of the league. How things change quickly in football. I think it's also worth noting that the next Premier League game week, we play on Saturday. We play before them again, away at Fulham, a very tricky fixture. But if we can come away winning that, we will be 4 points ahead of Liverpool, and they have a huge clash against Manchester United the next day. I know Manchester United don't look up to too much at the moment. I know they won yesterday, but Liverpool are obviously a different beast to Sunderland. But given the recent fixtures, you have to think, if Arsenal can stretch that lead to 4 points against them, Liverpool really will be feeling the pressure. So let's just hope that that's how things go. Obviously, we can only do our own job. Let's go to the next game week. Let's beat Fulham, put the pressure on Liverpool, and let's see what happens. I think that's everything for today. Obviously, we've got Manchester City playing Brentford today. Again, I'll be honest, do not hold out too much hope, even though Manchester City don't quite seem like their usual selves. But let's see, maybe we'll get another favour done for us. But job done from an Arsenal perspective. Go into the international break, top of the league for 2 weeks. Let's enjoy it, Gunners. That's everything from me today. As I said at the top of the video, guys, please like, please subscribe, and please leave your comments. What did you think of the game? What did you think of the formation, the team selection from the manager? And what do you think going into the international break? What do we need to work on? What do Arsenal need to do better? Anything like that. Please leave it in the comments and let me know your thoughts. This is MF GOON, the Arsenal supervillain. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Over and out.